Good morning on the West Coast and good afternoon on the East Coast. Today is Wednesday, September 14th, and for all you sandwich fans out there, today is National Eat a Hoagie Day. I'm John Yarrington, CEO of the Performance and Marketing Institute, a 501c6 not-for-profit trade association dedicated to protecting, promoting, and advancing the direct-to-consumer and direct response advertising industries. And on behalf of the entire PDMI team, it's my pleasure to welcome you back to another fun-filled and exciting episode of the PDMI Take 20. As a reminder, the PDMI Take 20 is a quick-hitting roundtable discussion led by industry experts on trending topics, all in 20 minutes or less. And today, we're joined by two incredibly talented creative leaders, Script to Screen's Ken Kerry, a PDMI member, and Avalanche's Seavey, and we'll be discussing the state of creative in today's dynamic and omni-channel marketing universe. However, before we get started, please allow me to do a little housekeeping. If you'd like to ask a question, and we encourage you to do so, please use the questions tab located in the control panel. Also, please note you're welcome to ask questions throughout today's conversation, but we will hold all replies to the end of today's discussion. Alrighty, folks, with that said, it's my pleasure to introduce today's moderator. Sharks have a week dedicated to him. He's the fearless Chris Foster. He's Vice President of New Business and Modern Postcard, a direct marketing agency located in Carlsbad, California. In addition to his day job, Chris teaches brand strategies at UCSD's extension courses, and he's the chairperson at the PDMI's Brand Response Council. As always, Chris, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you, my friend, and take it away.
Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it. And Ava and Ken, welcome in. We really appreciate it to your inaugural Take 20. I believe you are joining us for the 52nd episode. So congratulations and thank you so much. So everybody, welcome to the world of, it's not just omni-channel, it's across the universe. Creative outlets, from electronic billboards, direct mail, connected TV ads, YouTube pre-roll, TikTok, Facebook email, and everything in between. There's no shortage of channels through which to tell your story and persuade consumers to choose you, your brand. So, what are some of the new trends and ideas to drive awareness, conversion, and action? Specifically, how can TikTok be leveraged to drive e-commerce? What are the newest infomercial and commercial tactics that are proving to engage a new generation of viewers and buyers? How does YouTube and mobile viewing of content change the ways we respond to video? What's working and why? Tons of questions. We definitely don't have time for all of the answers, but we are joined today by masters of their crafts, Ava Saley and Ken Kerry. They're going to talk about not only changing consumer expectations, but also new ideas, some lessons of the field, and much, much more. And I'm gonna stop talking and start asking questions so we can learn from them. So Ken, I'm gonna ask you first. We do have an omnichannel world, we know that. But do you think that there are different jobs for different channels?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, absolutely. There are different jobs for different channels. And we were talking earlier about what we've been doing at Script to Screen that's been very successful for our clients. And so what we look at digital as a way to, it's another channel, which I think everybody understands. You know, especially digital native companies, you know, back in the day could make businesses there, but they can't scale them there anymore for all sorts of reasons, iOS 14, on and on and on. But the point of it is that we're using digital now, and we're testing offers, creative, things like that to, and there are specific audiences, I will give that caveat. But those learnings, we're moving into television, and that once we create a spot or an infomercial, it lifts all channels, and we've seen that dramatically work. And what we like about it with our clients is that, you know, you don't have to, and Ava and I can validate this, you know, you don't have to make this big investment right away in TV and say, I think we can, and hope, and this, and I did that before. We can be a lot more sharp and focused with our messaging on digital, and then move it on over to television, and therefore you're giving yourself a fighter's chance at that point. And the way, you know, media dollars are, I mean, you have to be really, really specific about that. So the channels we've been using for digital, absolutely, we're selling, we're doing that, but we're also testing. So we're giving that channel its own job, and then we're taking that to television. And since we've tested at that point, we create the spot, we create the infomercial, and it drives all other channels. So yes, there are two different things that we use them for, but all in all, it's to the benefit of whatever the campaign is, because you're being smart from the get, and then you are scaling from there.
I love that idea. It's almost like you're taking these channels and you're the manager of a baseball team, and you're saying, okay, team, we're all going to work together and do different things. Digital, go out and check this out. We're going to do a lot of learnings from you. And then TV, now's your time to shine, because you can take all those lessons. And I love the idea where back in the day, you would have to kind of hope that your creative work, and we all know hope is not a strategy, but planning, using digital to help plan, that's a fantastic way to use that channel. So it's not just the job of moving someone through the customer journey. The job becomes, let's learn. Let's use this to learn. So Ava, in that context,
the thing is that Yogi Berra is the guy who said that, hope is not a strategy. And Jeff Bezos said, either you pivot or die, right? And I think Ava can really talk about how we've all pivoted, and she specifically pivoted pretty significantly in our business.
Yeah, so Ava, let's talk about it in terms of pivoting to TikTok and what you think its job is.
Yeah, so while I agree to a certain extent that digital can sort of set the stage for TV, you can scale in digital without TV, specifically with TikTok and some of the other channels. It has an extraordinary reach. The CPMs are a lot lower than they are in many of the other media channels. Attribution still remains a little bit of an issue. So, but there's a lot of stats about TikTok, and according to Morning Consult, which is a large research firm, 49% of customers who view something on TikTok make a purchasing decision. 49%, which is huge. There's also a wide array of age groups on TikTok, so it's not just teenagers there. Fully over 40% of the people on TikTok are over 40, which is a huge stat. So while the direct attribution is still a little bit of a challenge, largely due to the evolution of TikTok, it is evolving so quickly that the people that even work there are often unaware of all of the evolutions. It has enormous power, enormous reach. We're seeing CPMs as low as $5 and less on TikTok. We're doing both direct sales and lead gen, where people are filling out forms to get more information about higher ticket items or products and services that are, looking to accumulate emails, cell phone info, etc. So you can not only drive traffic to either Amazon or a landing page, you can also accumulate data on your customers and own that data. That's, as we all know in DR, that is hugely important.
That is king.
That's wonderful. And one of the things that you mentioned about 40% being over 40, I recently read that there's this interesting confluence now between millennials and Gen Z, right? So Gen Z, as we know, extraordinary buying power, 40% of US consumers, 26% of the global population. We know that wave, that tsunami of 70 million buyers are going to be exercising their purchasing power in the upcoming years. But there's also this confluence of the millennial, right? And it's this coveted consumer of the 40-year-old and the 24-year-old, and between the two of them having this aggregate buying power that is unprecedented. And I think, Ava, to your point, that TikTok is not just for Gen Zs. It's right, for the ones who have the money.
But it's a great way to reach them, and TV has become very difficult to reach Gen Z. So it's a way to reach, and a lot of the Gen Zs are not on Snapchat anymore, or Snapchat has become really for 13-year-olds, and TikTok is more, the Gen Z and the millennial, preference. So, Facebook, they're not on Facebook because Facebook is for old people. They're really not And it's interesting how Mark Zuckerberg has really freaked out over what is going on with TikTok, and he's tried to recreate a TikTokian kind of feel, both with Reels on Facebook and Instagram, but he's kind of not succeeding because the posts on Facebook and Instagram are merely just TikTok posts. So there they are on Facebook and Instagram. So he's really noticed the power of TikTok in a big way, and terrified. He's terrified of TikTok.
No, what's interesting is that it gets back to your point earlier, Ken, about pivoting, right? And about how you now have to, as marketers, we have to adjust to changing consumer trends and behaviors that are driven by changing consumer-facing technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the TikTok technology came first, and then we figured out how to use it for fun, and then we figured out how to use it for commerce. And so how are you now advising clients when you think about content and channel and changing that content for the channel? What's your advice?
Well, our advice is you need to be everywhere. Now, we work with like big brands, not and so for certain channels, they're going to want to, they deal with those type of things themselves. But so we're always saying be everywhere. So we always go out with a content strategy, a digital strategy, and a social media strategy along with television at the same time. Now they may go in different phases, but we definitely say that because at the end of the day, you have to get the consumer where they're comfortable being. If they're on TikTok, if they're on Reels, if they're on Facebook, that's where they're at. Now, if you can get them to do what you want them to do and drive them somewhere else, or in Ava's case, keep them on the platform with TikTok, which is fantastic, you got to catch them where they're comfortable consuming your content. And then you got to get them to do something that you want them to do. Either it's go to a sales page or go to a retail outlet and go to retail, because a lot of our clients are all about scaling the message to drive retail sales. So
Okay.
So you got to be everywhere. And what's really, really important is you can't talk to a customer the same way you talk to them on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and television. You can't. You're selling the same thing, or you're creating the same, you want the same end effect, but you have to talk to them differently. So whenever we're going to do something on TikTok, it's going to be very raw, it's going to be very authentic, and Reels I may throw in some more music in it or something like that, or Facebook is a little bit more specific to the age demo, if you will, and then television, it used to be where we'd say, well, you need to be younger feeling on this channel and older on that channel. That's out the window now. It's just because the landscape is so large. So you can sell the same thing. The fundamentals of DR are all the same. You just have to talk to them differently, because you cannot assume your message on Facebook is going to resonate to the person on Instagram or on TikTok. We've seen it, and I think Ava's the same. It just doesn't translate.
Doesn't translate. And one of the things that you mentioned was being everywhere all at once, and then having, Ava was talking about the in-platform experience. So the impression that I'm getting too, it's not just the ad content and the messaging and the way you talk about the messaging that's different for each channel. It's almost like you have to manage the entire experience about that.
Yeah.
So Ava, is that true? Are you managing not just the ad itself, but the whole customer experience in that channel itself?
Yes, it's very hard to separate the two, especially for TikTok. It's easier for TV. You have your media buying agency and your creative agency. It's very hard to separate it with TikTok because it's constant optimization, constant looking at audiences, constant looking at, are we creating retargeting? Are we doing lookalike? Are we sparking an ad? So one of the new techniques we've been using is called sparked ads, which is basically finding an influencer, having them create an ad, and then through the platform, you have the ability to toggle a code from the influencer, which gets sent to us. We then spark the ad. So we're literally taking the organic content from their post and turning it into an ad. So we find that the engagement of sparked ads is as good as we are at doing creative, and we're pretty good at it. The sparked ads get many multiple times the engagement that one of the ads we create does, because it looks authentic, like Ken said. You know, a lot of what's on TikTok is raw, but we do follow this very specific sort of template types of principles when we do create the videos. I mean, as far as length goes, you know, between 22 and 32 seconds is the optimal length on TikTok. We know how many seconds in to have the first super. We know you need a CTA at the end. And then we're programming in all the hashtags on the platform itself. We're not putting it on the video. So we can experiment around with different hashtags, different labels, different things on the back end, kind of like how in the old world of TV, the dub houses would customize, you know, with 800 numbers and that sort of thing. We're actually doing that in the platform itself. So it's an extraordinary platform. It's very challenging. It's very difficult. It's very manual.
And what you're doing though also is, it's not like I said, it's not just that messaging. You're thinking through the call to action, the experience, what happens to the user, the website that they'll go to, the landing page they might be landing onto, right? It's kind of managing this whole thing.
Correct.
Yeah. To give an example of that is that, you know, we talked about we provided some stuff for the viewers that when we're done on, they can chime into, but here's an example. One of our clients is a nutraceutical company called Nugenics. Now, Nugenics, when we're on television, we have, you know, ex-sports stars like Frank Thomas and like that, and we're driving on TV, which is driving to a specific text funnel sales page, right? But then when we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, the message is totally different. It's a female delivering the message, and she's talking about, you know, having your man having their, you know, energy back and their libido back. That's a smaller point when we talk about on television, and then that goes to a totally separate landing page. So the message of selling the product is the same, totally different here from the creative all the way down to the sales funnel. Totally different here on the creative on television all the way down the sales funnel. So it's not just the piece of advertising, it's the entire mechanism.
And it goes back to actually what you started the conversation on with Ken, is the job, right? The job has a specific job to walk somebody through, and each one has not only a job at the moment to move it through the customer journey, but managing the entire customer journey and entire customer experience for each one. So we've got a limited time now, but before we sneak away, Ava, I have to ask you just a little tease on this about the customer journey as it relates to the concept of G-commerce or in-game commerce.
Yeah, so a new arising platform is gaming, advertising on gaming from an ROI standpoint. So some of the brand advertisers have experimented a bit with this, but the in-game experience, which keeps the buying and selling right on the platform, so the person does not have to leave the game in order to purchase products and services, is an exploding new category, which to me is as exciting as TikTok. And we have some customers going up and testing right now, and we'll have more to report in a couple of months, hopefully, if we do a recap of this.
Well, you can count on it. Hope is not a strategy, so we're going to plan for the part 2 as it relates to GCOM. And so right now we're at 20 minutes already, you guys. This was incredible. I'm going to open it up for John for some questions. But before we get to those questions, a special thanks to Ava and Ken. They are actually sharing links from some of the creative examples that they talked about. That's going to be put into the chat of this. Tom and John are putting that in, so check out those links to see what these folks are up to, truly on the tip of the spear as it relates to working with these new channels and new concepts. So please check those links out. John, I'm sure we must have questions from the audience.
You know, Chris, the phones were lit up over here. We got some questions. We run them past the gang. Let's start with the first one here. Based on your experience, are there creative outlet combinations, for example, TikTok plus TV, that when implemented congruently result in a positive multiplier effect?
I can chime in on that, and I'll be real quick for it because I'd love to hear Ava's impact on that. But absolutely, it moves all channels. So when we do television, all our social and digital we're very fortunate, is pretty good. But television absolutely scales all the. It is night and day the difference in the ROI on all those other channels when you layer on television. And I can speak from that standpoint, but from terms of how it works with TikTok, I'm sure Ava's a lot more better to talk about that than I am.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a halo effect.
Yeah.
We find specifically with TikTok that it's driving a lot of Amazon purchases.
Yeah.
So it's easier to get them from TikTok to Amazon sometimes, not all the time, than it is to get them to a landing page. It's also TV is always going to provide a halo effect to any other media without question.
You know, the biggest thing is that when we were doing direct response, television was it, and then we got into this thing called the internet, but people, right? But now you have to look at everything as its own channel, and you have to put your attention to specific channels. Television is definitely a halo effect, but it affects all those other channels. I mean, it's night and day. When we turn off television, boom, all digital, all social goes back down. When we turn on television, boom, it goes back up. And it also goes to, POS at retail as well.
Yeah, really good feedback. Thank you, guys. Here's another question for you. Although people may see that digital, social, mobile outlets work better for younger demos, is there really any limit on which verticals can do well in this industry, in this space?
I can answer that. I have digital running for people 60 plus. In both TikTok and YouTube. So, targeting specific age groups of people. And we have several nutritional supplement campaigns that have run on TikTok that are targeting a 50 plus market. So there is really not a limit on age groups. And sometimes the older people are more active on TikTok. The people 40 plus can have great engagement and good purchasing power. We're advertising very few products to people under 30 on TikTok right now. Most of the advertising is geared to older people. So
I would say the limitations we have found is with influencers, is that you're only as good as your influencers tribe, and an influencer can only go to their community so many times. So you have to keep looking for new people, and that's a hard thing to be sustainable. And I bow to Ava and her team that they can do with influencers and continue to be successful, because that's hard. You got to keep finding people that are relevant, and if you don't have relevant influence, it doesn't matter, right? And they can only go to their audience so many times. So that's been a little limiting for us.
Well, we combine influencers with our own creative. So
right.
we create video that's more like a commercial, and we mix that in with influencers. So it's not one or the other, it's mixing in.
An interesting idea. You guys got me thinking about this, and this is, just an idea that I don't think it's an answerable question, but Why is it? It's a funny thing. In the Wayback Machine, we would have spokespeople, right? Or for infomercials, we'd have a spokesperson. Now TikTok, you have an influencer. Consumers are drawn, right? Consumers are drawn to follow people in some way or some form or fashion, like the TikTok influencers, today's previous spokesperson. So anyway, I think it's an interesting idea that you still hang on to that anchor person to help carry a message, an anchor person that somebody trusts.
Yeah, well, it's no different than having a celebrity back in the day when you're doing advertising. They're an influencer in their own certain way. It's just it's the same thing, just in a different platform.
Yeah, I look at it more like testimonial. It's because testimonials are really huge on, all social platforms and on TV. And I look at influencers as being a testimonial for the product and service.
All righty, here's one more for you guys. This is kind of a fun question. If budget was no object, but you were relegated to one media genre, what creative outlet would you choose to promote your brand you're working for?
Well, totally. I would go ahead, Ava.
Go first, Ken.
It depends on who your audience is. I mean, that's a broad question. So, I think we've both given good examples of where you can be successful. But budget is relevant in terms of how fast and how big you want to scale. It's not about getting the message out there, because like myself and Ava and Chris, if you know the principles of how to the problem solution and create, that's what's key. That's where the mind trust is. Scalability is in money and is like how many channels I want to do and how much I want to put the throttle down. So you can't. That's not it's an answer. There's no answer to that until we know exactly who your audience is. What are your key performance indicators, and what are you expecting? Because then we can create the right campaign on the right platforms for that purpose.
Ditto. You said it all. Ken laid it out exactly as I would have. So thank you, Ken. Ditto.
Perfect. Listen, if you guys have like 30 more seconds, there's a couple more questions that are rolling in, and I'd love to throw them your way. But let's make them quick, just because I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. Have either of you guys tried podcasts from a creative standpoint, and what has been your experience?
Yes, we have some podcast work going on. It's podcasts to me are kind of like CTV in the sense that they take a little bit longer, so you have to be patient. We've tried both the host reads and the network reads. We have found, just from our limited recent experience, that while the host reads are great, we've gotten better ROI from the network reads, from the actual campaigns that were created to run on the podcast. Time will tell, because there's a longer look back period. There's like a 45-day look back period. And so the drag keeps coming in because the podcasts stay on the platform for longer periods of time. So the host reads could sort of catch up to the network reads. But it's a slow build. So anyone who's interested in exploring podcasts should not anticipate that it's immediate, the way that, running a TV campaign and seeing what happened on the call center side is immediate. Those days are kind of over, but it can be a very effective way. And we've gotten pretty good ROI on some of the podcasts.
And I'll just add, it's another channel. It's another channel.
Mm-hmm.
Well said in 3 words, Ken. I like it. Let me toss in one more question, just because I think you guys can both answer this very quickly. What percentage of sales does an influencer get, or is it a different compensation basis for them? Industry standard wide.
We're not engaging influencers on that basis. Yeah. I that's an old-fashioned way of engaging an influencer. We're looking at engaging influencers to create content, so they're paid per video, period, full stop. I think that because of attribution and tracking, it's kind of a mess, and I do not engage influencers on a back-end basis.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessary.
I think that's a great practice, and we found that, you know, it depends on the influencer, and we all know an influencer's idea of themselves is usually higher than the market will bear.
Yeah, well said, you two. I'm going to jump back in here and close things out. 1 second, please. Ken, Ava, Chris, what a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much. And to our audience, if you get a chance, look at the chat function in your control panel. Tom has placed several wonderful links provided by Ava and Ken. Go ahead and download those while we're closing things out. And if you missed them in any way, shape, or form, send us an email and we'll get you the details. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. Before we close out, I'd like to take a moment to invite you to join our next episode of the PDMI Take 20, which is hosted Wednesday, September 28th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'd also like to remind you that PDMI's fall conference, PDMI West, is scheduled for October 24th through 26th in San Diego at the Hard Rock Hotel. For those planning to stay at the Hard Rock on site, rooms are going fast, and the deadline to take advantage of the group discounted rate is September 23rd. To get your badges and hotel information and reserve your rooms, please visit thepdmi.com. That's thepdmi.com. Thanks again, everyone. What a great session. Looking forward to seeing you next time, and make it a great day.
Thank you.